Well, after 3 consecutive games of sheer and utter no-shows by virtually every Mavericks player not named Luka Doncic, coupled with some of the worst on-ball defense we have ever seen in NBA playoff history by Luka himself, Dallas finally, at long last, decided to put up a concerted team effort in Game 4 of the NBA Finals and stave off their own elimination.
Welcome to the party, pal!
And they were, of course, aided in their pursuit of avoiding the dreaded fate of the broom by the Celtics Celticing, aka barfing all over themselves as they completely and utterly mailed it in at, right around the 3.5-minute mark of the first quarter. That is when Dallas took its first double-digit lead, and they would not look back from there, leading by 13 points after 1 and 26 at half, en route to a 122-84 final score. And the 38-point margin of victory is the third most ever in an NBA Finals game. A game that frankly wasn't even that close, as Dallas at one point in the fourth quarter was up by 48. An absolutely laughable and pathetic effort by Boston, one that should come as little surprise to anyone, as this is one of the most laughably unproven champions we will see, hell, practically ever. One that is folded in literally any sign of adversity they have ever encountered during the entire tenure of Jason Tatum. Luckily for them, they found an equation for success: impossibly stack their own roster, reduce Jason Tatum to a role player, systematically luck out and avoid every single viable opponent in their own conference before getting to a Mavericks team totally unprepared for this stage and challenge. In effect, somehow find a way to never have to face adversity. Almost an unthinkable proposition in the modern era of NBA basketball, but the 2024 Celtics have somehow done it. The coronation, of course, will have to wait for one more game, and the good news for the Celtics is they'll get to pop the bubbly at home in their own locker room, and they'll get to hoist that Larry O'Brien in front of the home crowd. Meanwhile, no credit at all to Dallas.
So you get nothing
for managing to not let themselves get swept and force us to continue to waste another 3 days talking about and thinking about this dreadful ass of a series.
It's a complete crap.
Luka managed to stop flopping, flailing, and whining all over the court for an entire game, and when he does so, his brilliance does shine through in resounding fashion, and he was dominant in his stretches in Game 4, scoring 25 of his 29 points in the first half. Kyrie, meanwhile, also was good for a second straight game. Together, the dynamic duo of Doncic and Irving combined for 50 points on 22 of 44 shooting in just 3 quarters. But again, thanks for absolutely nothing, Dallas. A day late and $1 short. You know what the numbers are. 156 teams throughout the course of NBA history have been down 3 games to none. 156 teams have ultimately gone on to lose that series. In fairness to Dallas, most of those series, 95 of the 156 to be precise, ended in full-on sweeps, while another 46 ended in 5 games. So overall, 90% of the series where a team trailed 3 games to none in ultimately was over in 5 games or less. So Dallas will seek to add to that list of 15 who were able to get it to at least a Game 6, though the odds are certainly against them on Monday in Boston, where the Celtics have preliminarily opened as a 6.5-point favorite. But not so fast. The big elephant in the room for them is Kristaps Porzingis, whose health and availability continues to loom large for Boston. The unicorn, of course, came into this final series in Game 1 on a minutes restriction after missing 10 straight games over a 38-day span, but was undeniably the best player on either team on both sides of the floor in that Game 1 win, despite playing in only 20 minutes. and his impact was felt again in Game 2, though he did get injured in that game, some mysterious and incredibly rare ligament issue in his foot, which I will not even attempt to pronounce here. But in those first 2 games of this series, with Porzingis on the court, the Celtics outscored Dallas by 25 points, while the Mavericks played them to an even draw in the non-Porzingis minutes.
With me, without me. With me, without me.
Of course, the Celtics then managed to hold on to get the win in Game 3 without Porzingis in the lineup, and while he was technically active for Game 4, head coach Joe Mazzulla said before the tip that they would only use him in, quote, very key situations. But he ended up not playing a single second in a game that was basically over halfway through the first quarter. And Porzingis has the 3rd best game score in this entire series for either team, behind only Luka Doncic and Jaylen Brown, while his D rating of 98 points allowed per 100 possessions he's on the court is absolutely ludicrous, and 10 points lower than any other single individual on Boston's team. While boy genius Joe Mazzulla has had Jason Tatum guarding the 5 in massive stretches of this series, a tactic, of course, Dallas has done little to capitalize on. But nonetheless, this series could get moderately interesting if Porzingis continues to be either unavailable or significantly limited. Really, at this point, your guess is as good as mine, as neither one of these teams is remotely trustworthy. But regardless of which way this one goes on Monday, we are likely certain to see yet another terrible and unwatchable game in what has been a pitiful series overall.